Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step aside immediately. Sarah Whitman's voice cuts through the gentle hum of the first-class cabin, sharp and unwavering. The surrounding passengers glance over, some pausing mid-conversation, others lowering their in-flight magazines. Marcus Carter, seated comfortably in 3A, looks up, his expression neutral. His tailored suit remains crisp, his posture relaxed. "Is there a problem?" he asks, keeping his tone measured. Sarah shifts her weight, arms crossed. "You're not supposed to be in this seat, sir. I need you to move." A murmur spreads. A few passengers exchanged glances. Curiosity piqued. Marcus blinks, lips parting slightly. He glances at his boarding pass, then back at Sarah. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." But Sarah doesn't budge. Her stare sharpens. "I need you to step aside, sir. Now." Tension thickens. The moment hangs. The silence is loud. Marcus exhales slowly, glancing around. All eyes are on him now. "I know what seat I paid for," he says calmly, placing his hands on the armrests. 3A, first class, direct flight to New York. Would you like to see my ticket?" Sarah's nostrils flare. She doesn't look at the ticket. Instead, she crosses her arms tighter, her voice rising a notch. "Sir, I need you to cooperate." A few rows away, a woman leans toward her husband. "Why won't she just check his ticket?" she whispers. Another passenger reaches for his phone, his fingers hovering over the record button. Marcus doesn't move. "I'm not causing a problem, ma'am. I'm just sitting in my assigned seat." Sarah's jaw tightens. "Not for long." A chuckle breaks the silence. "Some people just don't know their place," a voice mutters. Marcus turns his head. The businessman in 3B smirks, eyes fixed on his phone as if he hadn't just spoken aloud. His Rolex glints under the cabin lights. Marcus studies him. The message is clear. Sarah's posture stiffens, but she doesn't correct the man. She doesn't acknowledge the comment at all. Instead, she presses forward. "Sir, I won't ask again." The murmurs among the passengers grow. Someone whispers, "This doesn't feel right." A woman 2 rows back starts recording, her camera angled just enough to capture Sarah's stance, chin high, arms locked. Marcus exhales through his nose. His patience is thinning, but he won't give them what they expect. Not today. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out his boarding pass, holding it up for Sarah to see. "Ma'am, this seat belongs to me. My name is Marcus Carter. The ticket says 3A. Sarah's eyes flick to the ticket but never actually focus. She scoffs, shaking her head. "There must be a mistake." Marcus keeps his voice steady. "No mistake. Check your system." But she doesn't. Instead, she glances toward the flight attendant's station, as if looking for backup. "Sir, I'm giving you a final warning." Marcus clenches his jaw. He's been here before. Different setting, same fight. The difference? This time, people are watching. A shadow looms over Marcus. "Sir, we can handle this the easy way, or the hard way." The flight marshal's voice is deep, authoritative. He stands tall, hands clasped in front of him. But Marcus knows that stance. It's not a request, it's an ultimatum. "What seems to be the issue?" Marcus asks, tilting his head. "The issue is, you need to move." The marshal doesn't ask for his ticket. He doesn't ask for an explanation. Marcus glances at Sarah. Her lips twitch, a hint of triumph flickering in her eyes. The businessman next to him shakes his head, muttering, "Just get up, man." The phone cameras are rolling now. Every breath, every word is being recorded. Marcus inhales deeply. "And if I don't?" The marshal leans in. "Then I'll move you myself." Marcus doesn't flinch. "Do you even know who you're talking to?" he asks, voice even. The marshal blinks, thrown for the first time. He expected resistance. He didn't expect confidence. Sarah scoffs. "It doesn't matter who you are. You need to move." Marcus lets the silence stretch. He can feel the weight of a dozen stares pressing in on him, waiting for his reaction. He could argue, he could demand fairness, but that's not the play. Slowly, he reaches into his pocket. Sarah's eyes narrow. "Sir, don't make me call security." Marcus smirks. No need. With deliberate slowness, Marcus pulls out a slim leather case and flips it open. A small golden emblem gleams under the cabin lights. The letters are unmistakable. CIA. A sharp inhale from someone nearby. The murmurs turn into full-blown whispers. Sarah's face drains of color. The businessman next to Marcus sits up straighter. The flight marshal swallows hard. Marcus places the badge on the tray table, tapping it lightly. Would you like to question my clearance again? Sarah takes a step back. The cabin is dead silent. Cut to black. You're sending me where? Marcus Carter sat across from his commanding officer, his uniform crisp, his posture rigid. He had spent years serving as an Army intelligence officer, embedding himself deep into hostile territories, extracting information most wouldn't dare touch. Langley wants you. The CIA needs more operatives with your skill set. Marcus's mind raced. Surveillance, counterintelligence, psychological warfare. These were his strengths. He had spent years perfecting his craft, mastering the delicate art of deception while staying steps ahead of enemies who would rather see him buried than victorious. So, I trade my uniform for a badge? He asked, though he already knew the answer. The general nodded. You were never just a soldier, Carter. You were always something more. From the moment Marcus entered the intelligence community, he understood the unspoken rules. He had grown up in a predominantly white suburb, where he learned early how to move carefully, how to be sharp, how to be twice as good just to be seen as equal. The CIA was no different. He's good, but does he have the leadership skills? Impressive record, but maybe not the right fit for this particular assignment. Marcus had heard it all. Every coded phrase, every excuse wrapped in careful diplomacy. Still, he never wavered. He had cracked international spy rings, infiltrated high-risk organizations, and gathered intelligence that saved lives. And yet, promotions always seemed just out of reach. He played their game, outworking, outthinking, and outperforming. Because failure wasn't an option, and proving them wrong became his quiet rebellion. This flight wasn't just about convenience. It was a strategy. Marcus wasn't traveling for leisure. He was carrying intelligence that could dismantle an international criminal syndicate. The kind of information that people would kill for. First class wasn't luxury. It was a necessity. Controlled surroundings, fewer passengers, limited access. Every factor was deliberate. He had memorized every face in the cabin within minutes. The businessman in 3B, tapping away on his laptop. The older couple in 2A and 2B, chatting softly. The flight attendants moving efficiently, including Sarah Whitman. A routine flight, but Marcus never underestimated a mission. Complacency was the first step toward failure, and failure was never an option. The airport had been the first test. A TSA agent lingered over his ID longer than necessary. The pause wasn't about security. It was about doubt. "You're military," the officer had asked, eyes flicking between Marcus and the credentials. "Was. Now, I'm in the private sector." The officer hesitated, then let him through. At the gate, another glance. A sideways look from a well-dressed traveler, as if assessing whether Marcus had walked into the wrong lounge. It was always there. The silent question. "Do you belong here?" Marcus had learned to ignore it, to let the weight of assumptions roll off his back. But in the cabin, as Sarah Whitman stood over him, that weight pressed down harder than usual. And this time, he wasn't going to let it slide. The flashback faded, and Marcus's fingers tightened around the leather wallet in his pocket. Inside, his CIA badge sat cold against his palm, a symbol of everything he had built, everything he had endured. He had spent a lifetime fighting battles no one saw, fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be respected. And now, on this flight, the fight was staring him in the face once again. Sarah Whitman's eyes flickered with impatience, her stance unyielding. "Sir, I won't ask again." Marcus inhaled deeply, then slowly pulled his hand from his pocket. The past had taught him that power wasn't always in how you spoke. Sometimes it was in what you revealed. And in a few seconds, the entire flight would know exactly who they were dealing with. Sarah Whitman barely glances at the badge before letting out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, please," she scoffs, folding her arms. "Anyone can buy a fake ID online. That doesn't mean you belong here." Marcus Carter remains still, his expression unreadable. He's heard this before, seen the doubt in people's eyes the moment they realize a black man holds authority. Passengers murmur, shifting in their seats. The tension thickens, pressing down like a storm about to break. "Sir, you need to move," Sarah insists, her voice louder now, as if raising the volume makes her right. Marcus keeps his gaze steady. "And what part of the CIA do you think is fake?" Sarah snatches the badge from the tray table, flipping it over like she's searching for flaws. "I don't know," she smirks. "Why don't we ask someone who actually knows what one looks like?" A chuckle from behind. "Yeah, he's got a point. Shouldn't you be in uniform or something?" A businessman leans forward, peering at Marcus like he's a puzzle missing pieces. His tone is casual, but his words drip with something uglier. Another voice joins in. "If he's really with the government, why's he flying commercials?" Sarah smiles, emboldened. "Exactly. It's not adding up, is it?" More whispers now. Passengers shifting in their seats, judgment without evidence. Marcus exhales slowly, feeling the weight of a lifetime of assumptions pressing down at once. "You people always play the victim," the businessman mutters under his breath. That does it. A slow burn starts in Marcus's chest, but he forces it down. He's been here before. He knows better than to let them dictate his response. Marcus sits back, locking his hands together. "Are we done with the speculation, or would you like me to recite my clearance level?" Sarah's lips tighten. She expected anger, resistance. Instead, she's met with unwavering control. "Sir, I'm going to ask you one last time." "No," Marcus cuts in, his tone even. "You're going to listen for once. I bought this seat. I have the credentials, and I'm not moving because you're uncomfortable with that." Silence. A test of patience. A test of power. Marcus knows exactly what's happening. He knows how this game is played, and he knows it's never been a fair one. Sarah presses the intercom before Marcus can say another word. "Captain, we have an issue in first class." Minutes later, heavy steps approach. The captain arrives, a middle-aged man with silver hair and a no-nonsense stance. He takes one look at Sarah, then at Marcus, barely sparing the badge a glance. "What's going on here?" "This passenger refuses to move," Sarah says smoothly, stepping closer to the captain as if they're on the same team. "He claims to be CIA, but—" The captain holds up a hand, silencing her. Then he turns to Marcus. "Sir, let's not make this difficult." There it is. The assumption of guilt. No questions, no verification. Just a command, veiled as a suggestion. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," Marcus replies. "The only difficulty here is your flight attendant's prejudice." The captain stiffens. "I'm asking you to cooperate." But it isn't a request. Lisa, the only black flight attendant on board, stands near the galley, her hands clasped tightly. She's been watching since the first accusation, her pulse hammering with a familiar dread. She knows Marcus is right. She knows what's happening. But she also knows what speaking up could cost her. She has seen colleagues get reassigned, or worse, fired, for challenging the wrong people. So she stays quiet, for now. But her silence isn't ignorance, it's survival. And as Marcus meets her eyes for a fleeting second, she wonders if he understands. Because she does, more than anyone else on this flight. Marcus exhales, his jaw tightening. This was never about a seat, not really. It was about reminding him of his place, about making sure he knew that no matter how high he climbed, someone would always try to pull him back down. The badge in his hand is more than just identification. It's proof of how much he's fought to get here. But right now, it doesn't matter. Because to them, he's still just another black man they think doesn't belong. And the worst part, they expect him to accept it. Sarah presses the intercom with a triumphant smirk. "Captain, security has been notified. They'll be waiting at the gate." A crackle over the speaker, then the pilot's voice. "Understood. We'll proceed accordingly." The announcement drops like a bomb. A few passengers exchange uneasy glances. Others nod in silent agreement. "About time," someone mutters. Marcus exhales, his hands tightening into fists beneath the table. This isn't just about him anymore. This is about control, about Sarah proving a point. A mother pulls her child closer. A man across the aisle shakes his head, whispering to his wife. "I knew something was off about him." Sarah straightens, satisfied. "Now, if you'd just comply, sir, this will all go smoothly." Marcus keeps his voice even. "You realize what you're doing?" Sarah shrugs. "I'm keeping this flight safe. If you have nothing to hide, you won't mind security sorting it out." He's been in countless tense situations, but none quite like this. Because this time the enemy isn't in some foreign country. The enemy is perception itself. A teenage girl 3 rows back lifts her phone. "Guys, this is crazy," she whispers into the camera. "They're calling security on a black guy who says he works for the CIA." Within seconds, the comments flood in. "He's lying. No way, he's the government." This is racial profiling, plain and simple. She's just doing her job. Why's he making a scene? The video spreads like wildfire. Others on the plane take out their phones, capturing bits and pieces. Some shake their heads in disapproval. Others mutter under their breath. Marcus sees the girl angle her phone toward him. A digital courtroom, where he's already been found guilty by half the audience. Sarah, catching sight of the live stream, leans in closer. "Hope you enjoy your 15 minutes, because once this lands, it's over for you." Marcus doesn't flinch. He's survived interrogation rooms, surveillance missions in enemy territories. But nothing prepares a man for the weight of being falsely accused in front of the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah announces, voice crisp with authority, "I want to assure you that this flight remains safe. However, we have identified a potential security threat." Gasps ripple through the cabin. The words land like a gavel slamming down. Marcus clenches his jaw. He knows the power of labels. Knows that once someone like him is called a threat, it doesn't matter what the truth is. "I understand this might be uncomfortable," Sarah continues, "but in these situations we can't take risks." Marcus exhales through his nose. "A risk," he repeats quietly. "Is that what I am?" Sarah's smirk widens. "We'll let security decide." Passengers murmur. Some nod. Others shift in their seats, avoiding eye contact. Marcus could argue, could demand to speak to the captain. But he knows how that will look. Know the headlines that would follow. "Aggressive black passenger escorted off plane." So, he does the hardest thing of all. He stays silent. The weight of it all presses down on him. The whispers, the stares, the smug satisfaction on Sarah's face. Marcus forces himself to breathe, to focus. Lashing out won't change their minds. Explaining won't either. He's trained for this. High-stakes missions, tense negotiations. Yet nothing in his years of service has prepared him for the helplessness of this moment. "Sir, please remain seated until landing," Sarah says, mock politeness laced with triumph. Marcus grips the armrest, knuckles white. He wants to stand, to shout, to demand someone, anyone, see him. Instead, he stares ahead, forcing his heart to slow. He's been here before. Maybe not on a plane, maybe not with a badge in his pocket, but he's been here. A black man, accused, guilty until proven innocent, and sometimes even then. A cough, a hesitation, then finally, "Sarah, this isn't right." Lisa's voice is steady but low, barely cutting through the hum of the cabin. Sarah turns, eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" Lisa swallows. "We both know this isn't a security issue. You're escalating something that doesn't need to be." Marcus looks up, meeting Lisa's gaze. Sarah scoffs. Lisa, stay out of this. But Lisa doesn't move. He hasn't done anything. A few passengers turn, catching the quiet rebellion. Sarah laughs, but there's an edge to it now. You don't get to make that call. Lisa's fingers tighten around the edge of her serving tray. She knows speaking up puts a target on her back. But silence has a cost too, and she's paid it enough times before. Sarah steps in close, voice dropping to a whisper. You want to think very carefully about what you're doing right now. Lisa stiffens. Do you want to keep your job? Sarah presses, her tone sickly sweet. Lisa's stomach churns. She's seen it happen before. Good employees let go for making the wrong people uncomfortable. Marcus watches the exchange, reading the unspoken words between them. Lisa takes a shaky breath. I just think. You don't think, Sarah snaps. You follow orders. The silence that follows is suffocating. Lisa's lips part, but the words never come. And just like that, Sarah wins again. The plane descends, the wheels hitting the runway with a jolt. For most, the landing marks the end of a journey. For Marcus, it's the beginning of something far worse. Security is already waiting. Dark uniforms, stone faces. Passengers shift, pretending not to notice. Others openly watch, waiting for the final act of the show. Marcus keeps his hands in sight, his posture rigid, because he knows even now any wrong move could be his last. The doors open, Boots step inside, and just like that, it's time. Mr. Carter? The lead officer steps forward, hand resting near his holster. Marcus meets his gaze, waiting for the inevitable. Come with us. A pause, a heartbeat of silence, then, wait. A new voice, strong, commanding. And suddenly, the entire plane turns to see who it belongs to, because, in that instant, everything is about to change. Hands where we can see them. The lead officer steps forward, tension crackling in the air. Passengers hold their breath, waiting for the inevitable. But before a single handcuff is fastened, a voice cuts through the chaos. Stand down. Heads swivel as a man near the exit rises. Dark sunglasses. Unshaken demeanor. His presence alone demands attention. Sarah's lips curl in irritation. Sir, this is a security matter. I suggest— No, you listen. He interrupts. Tone smooth but unwavering. He's with us. Let him go. A beat of silence. Then another. Marcus barely shifts, but inside, a war rages. He recognizes that voice. The officers hesitate, eyes darting between Sarah and the stranger. Who exactly are you? Sarah snaps. The man exhales, slipping a hand into his jacket. For a moment, tension spikes. Then he pulls out a small, leather-bound case. He flips it open, and everything changes. Golden lettering, a familiar insignia, the kind of badge that ends conversations before they start. Deputy Director Collins, CIA, the man announces, his voice carrying just enough weight to silence the room. Sarah's face drains of color. The officers step back on instinct. I don't understand, Sarah stammers. He said he was an analyst, he's not just an analyst, Collins corrects. He's on assignment. And you just compromised an operation. Whispers surge through the cabin like a rising tide. Marcus says nothing. He doesn't have to. The badge in Collins's hand does all the talking. This must be a misunderstanding, the captain interjects, voice suddenly far less certain. Collins doesn't even look at him. The only misunderstanding is why a flight attendant thought she had the authority to detain one of my men. Sarah opens her mouth, but no words come out. For the first time since this started, she's the one grasping for control. Gasps ripple through the passengers. Conversations once whispered now erupt in hushed disbelief. She was wrong. She humiliated a federal agent. He could sue her for this. Sarah stands frozen, the weight of her actions finally sinking in. Just minutes ago, she was the one calling the shots. Now, her power is slipping through her fingers. Marcus remains still, his face unreadable. He doesn't relish this moment, doesn't celebrate her downfall, because this isn't justice. It's just exposure. Justice would have been not needing a badge to be believed. Lisa watches Sarah unraveling with quiet vindication. She'd spoken up when no one else did. And now, the world sees what she saw from the beginning. Sarah's voice finally returns, but it's fragile. I was just following protocol. Collins exhales sharply. Then your protocol needs fixing. The lead officer clears his throat. With all due respect, sir, we were only acting on information provided. No. Collins raises a hand, stopping him cold. If you lay another hand on him, you'll be answering to the Justice Department. The air thickens. Sarah flinches. The officers shift uneasily. Even the captain steps back. Marcus watches it all unfold, emotion simmering beneath his calm exterior. We had concerns. Sarah tries again, but the words falter. Collins tilts his head. Concerns? Based on what? His seat number? His skin color? Sarah's mouth opens, then snaps shut. Passengers murmur. The weight of the accusation is undeniable. The captain exhales. Look, let's all take a moment to— No, let's not. Collins interjects. Let's acknowledge what just happened. Let's acknowledge that a man with an unblemished record, serving his country, was humiliated based on a gut feeling. Sarah shrinks under the scrutiny. No one rushes to her defense. Lisa leans against the beverage cart, arms folded. For the first time in this entire flight, Sarah isn't in control. Passengers shift in their seats. The expressions once filled with silent judgment are now painted with something else. Regret, maybe. Embarrassment. Even those who'd nodded along with Sarah's suspicions now look away. Lisa doesn't need to say a word. Sarah knows. And that's enough. Oh my God, guys, this is insane, the teenage girl whispers into her phone. The live stream hasn't stopped. It's only gained momentum. The chat is moving at lightning speed. So, she racially profiled a CIA agent? This is career-ending for her. He stayed calm the whole time. She didn't. Lisa glances toward the phone screen. The view count is skyrocketing. The power dynamics have shifted, but the impact isn't confined to this plane. This isn't just a moment, it's a movement. And Sarah, she's not just facing Marcus anymore, she's facing the entire world. Marcus exhales slowly, rolling his shoulders back as the officers step away. Sir, we apologize for the misunderstanding, one mutters. He says nothing to them. Instead, his gaze locks onto Sarah. Do you have any idea what you just did? His voice is steady, controlled. No anger, just truth. Sarah swallows hard, but the defiance in her eyes lingers. I was just doing my job. Marcus tilts his head slightly. Number? You were abusing your authority, and in the process, you made the biggest mistake of your career. A flicker of doubt crosses her face. Passengers whisper, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Marcus adjusts his suit, a silent reclaiming of dignity. He doesn't need to humiliate her. Reality is doing that for him. And the consequences? They've only just begun. The second the cabin doors open, a group of executives is waiting at the gate. The captain steps forward, lips pressed into a thin line. Behind him, two senior airline representatives stand with crossed arms. Sarah stiffens. Captain, He doesn't let her finish. Save it, we've seen the footage. Lisa steps forward, arms folded. She lied. She humiliated an innocent man. And she nearly caused an international incident. The executives exchange tense glances. One clears his throat. We take allegations of discrimination very seriously. Allegations? Marcus finally speaks, his voice sharp. This isn't an allegation. It's documented, broadcasted. There's no debate. Sarah turns to them, desperation creeping in. I was acting on a security concern. The captain shakes his head. No, Sarah, you were acting on a bias. And just like that, her last defense crumbles. The video spreads like wildfire. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Every platform is flooded with the same clip. Sarah accusing, Marcus standing firm, the badge that shattered her authority. This is what flying while black looks like. One tweet reads, already at 500,000 likes. She saw a successful black man in first class and assumed criminal. Disgusting. Another user comments. A petition demanding Sarah's termination gains tens of thousands of signatures within hours. Marcus scrolls through his phone, watching the outrage build. But it isn't just anger. It's momentum. For once, the world isn't looking away, and neither is the airline. Lisa exhales sharply, staring at the executives. "So, what happens now?" she asks. One of them hesitates. "We're conducting a full internal review." Lisa laughs under her breath. "A review, right?" Marcus studies her, sensing what's coming. She turns to the captain. "I've worked for this airline for 8 years, and in 8 years, I've seen this happen too many times. I've been told to keep quiet, to just do my job, but I won't anymore." She pulls off her name badge, setting it down on the counter. "I won't work for a company that protects racism." The room falls silent. Sarah's eyes widen. She knows this isn't just about her anymore. It's about a system, and that system is finally being challenged. 2 weeks later, the airline issued a statement. Sarah has been terminated, effective immediately. She won't work for another major airline again. But it's not just about her. The company is in full damage control mode, announcing mandatory anti-discrimination training, policy overhauls, and new security procedures. They call it progress. Marcus calls it the bare minimum. Lisa, now working for an advocacy group, agrees. This isn't about one person losing their job. It's about making sure this never happens again. The headlines cover it all. Airline scandal sparks industry-wide reform. Employee resigns over racial bias cover-up. Marcus watches from a distance, knowing this isn't the end of the fight. It's just another battle won. What started as a flight became something more. A moment of humiliation turned into a movement. Marcus doesn't bask in victory. This was never about revenge. It was about truth. A black man in first class should never be questioned before he's welcomed, should never have to prove his right to exist. And now, the world sees that. His story isn't just his anymore. It belongs to the fight for justice. And justice, once ignored, is finally demanding to be heard. Imagine being in Marcus's place, accused, humiliated, and forced to defend your very presence. Would you have spoken up, fought back, or would you have stayed silent, knowing how dangerous it can be to challenge authority? Tell us, if you were in Marcus's shoes, how would you have reacted? Racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a look, a hesitation, an assumption. Have you ever seen someone face discrimination in public? Maybe a friend, a stranger, maybe even you. What did you do? Did you step in, or did fear hold you back? Share your story. Your voice matters. Sarah was fired, but is that enough? The airline apologized, but would they have, if not for the viral outrage? What should real accountability look like? Firing one person doesn't erase a broken system. Do you think the airline did enough? Or was this just another PR move? Let's discuss. Lisa walked away from her job, choosing justice over silence. But what if it were you? Would you risk your career to stand up for what's right? Or would you hesitate, fearing the consequences? Be honest. What would you have done in Lisa's place? Let's talk.